Holiday travelers facing more cancellations today. According to FlightAware, nearly 4,000 flights have been scrapped, and Southwest continues to be the biggest cause of the problem.
That's right. Southwest has already canceled more than 2,300, or about 60% of its schedule, just this morning. And the airline CEO now says it may take another week before everything returns to normal. Here's what was offered as an explanation.
Here's why this giant puzzle is taking us several days to solve. Southwest is the largest carrier in the country, not only because of our value and our values, but because we build our flight schedule around communities, not hubs. So we're the largest airline in 23 of the top 25 travel markets in the U.S. Cities where large numbers of scheduled flights simultaneously froze as record bitter cold brought challenges for all airlines.
With us now, Joshua Yoder, a pilot for a major airline and president of U.S. Freedom Flyers. Joshua, welcome, and thanks for coming on. What did you make of that explanation? What's really going on here?
Well, they're not telling you the full story here. What actually happened is that obviously bitter cold did descend on Denver, and that's really where this Southwest Airlines meltdown started. What he's not talking about is the antiquated scheduling systems, the computer systems that Southwest has. They've been warned by years by the pilots unions and others that they were going to have a major issue with these, 2 decades old scheduling systems, and everything kind of came to a head over the Christmas holiday season. Ultimately, Southwest found themselves trying to communicate with all of their 20,000 frontline employees that were in place and ready to go via phone, and essentially the operation fell apart. They didn't know where aircraft or where their crews were. And I know of a number of Southwest crews that actually spent over 48 hours sleeping in the airport, because even on their own, they were unable to find hotels.
Joshua, Congress says they're going to investigate the situation. You had Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg saying Southwest will face consequences for this. But why is this problem so unique to just Southwest Airlines? How come other air carriers didn't experience these hiccups over this past Christmas weekend?
Well, that's the question to ask. And obviously, it wasn't just weather, because other airlines, while they had some cancellations, they were able to operate fairly normal schedules. Like I said, Southwest has been warned for years. They've known for years about these antiquated computer systems that they had. And even though since 2020, they took $7.2 billion from the federal government, your taxpayer money, they didn't update their systems. Rather than the outgoing CEO, Gary Kelly, used that money to bump his stock prices. The federal government bought over $1 million worth of Southwest stock as part of that deal. And rather than investing in his country, in his company, he ran the company somewhat as a slumlord. He was taking all the profits rather than investing in the future of the airline. And now Bob Jordan, the new CEO, he's left holding the bag.
Do you believe all of these delays and cancellations and people unable to locate their baggage could have been prevented had these upgrades been made earlier?
Absolutely. Had Southwest management actually heeded the pilots union and others over the past several years, they could have upgraded these systems. But you have to understand, to do that, it cost the company, millions of dollars, and they were reluctant to spend the money. However, now looking at the cost that this is going to cost Southwest Airlines, it would have been far cheaper to upgrade those systems a few years back.
Joshua, Southwest's CEO says, one of the reasons why there have been so many more delays and cancellations and people still haven't been able to get to where they're going is because Southwest, the way they structure their business model is they don't serve as many hubs as other major airline carriers. They're more serving smaller cities across the U.S., and particularly the Northeast and Southwest. Is there more to it than that, or do you buy that explanation from him?
There's a lot more to it than that. The primary factor here is those computer systems and the fact that they lost track of their crews and their aircraft over the holiday season.
How does Southwest make this right with those customers?
Well, that's a question, and I think it's really going to be up to the customer demands. And I think Southwest needs to take extensive measures, or they're going to lose a large portion of the people who have been so loyal to them over the years. This isn't the first time this has happened at Southwest. I mean, this is become a semi-regular thing over the past 2 to 3 years. They've had some major hiccups, so I think management needs to do some soul searching. I think they need to reconsider the investments they're making in their airline, also their employees, and also the way that employees are treated. I hear frequently from pilots and flight attendants at Southwest who are very unhappy at what Southwest has become. Back in the days of Herb Keller, the founder of that airline. Employees love to work for the company, and I can tell you that it has changed. It's a very different company than it was when Herb was in charge.
Joshua, what does the future of airline travel look like here in the U.S. And around the world? I mean, are we going to continue to see issues like this pop up sporadically with different airlines? Is this just part of the game when you travel?
Well, it shouldn't be. I think that's going to really depend on the steps that management takes right now. One concern that we're currently seeing is a major increase in long-term disability claims among pilots. They forced the vaccines on us last year, and now we're starting to see the fallout. Now that we know the side effects that are associated with that, that's just one more component that's being added to an already difficult industry. So only time will tell, but I believe that decisive action needs to be taken now by the CEOs and middle management to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, have you noticed a delay in recruitment when it comes to adding pilots to staff or flight attendants?
What I can tell you is that there are major training backlogs, at least at a few of the major airlines. It's not uncommon to wait for 2 to 3 months for a training slot. So you couple that with a pilot shortage that we already knew we were going to have between 2020 and 2030, and then you have the the increase in long-term disability claims, like I spoke about. I know at American Airlines specifically, between January and July of 2022 was a 300% increase. So you have this increase of pilots going out on disability, and then you also have difficulties recruiting because the major airlines aren't having the difficulties. They're pulling pilots from the regional carriers. Unfortunately, on the regional carrier side of things, they are stretched to the max right now.
Joshua, over the last year, we've heard airlines talk about becoming more diverse and seeking equity, and there's particularly in their flight crews, and potentially making hiring decisions of pilots not based on how many years they've been flying or their skill set, but what they look like. Is there a danger to the public when air carriers make decisions like that?
There is a major danger here, and this is something that I can tell you almost all airline employees are super frustrated with. These airlines have gone woke, and you've heard the saying, go woke, go broke. That's something that you're seeing. I mean, just recently you had JetBlue Airlines. They hired a felon who had actually, he was put in prison for attempted murder. He got out. And then airlines are often now hiring around the issues of diversity versus the issues of qualification. And I think it's a very dangerous path that they're headed down.
All right. Again, for the cause of delays right now, we're seeing with Southwest, again, all citing back toward that system, the fact that it was outdated, not upgraded, and unfortunately, all the travelers are now having to pay for it with those delays. Joshua Yoder, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate your insight.